This is going to be an essential gear guide as a videographer in South Africa, and also a guide on how to buy gear in this country. Gear. I know as a South African, technology can be very tricky, and we tend to be a little screwed when it comes to either prices of technology, specifically camera gear, and availability. Editor Luke here. I forgot to mention that there will be a list in the link in the description at the top with all this gear in it, so don't forget to go check that out and save it for later. So over the years of me being a videographer, whether it was for my agencies or it was in my personal capacity as a freelancer, there's been many different ways that I've bought gear over the years and that I have acquired the gear over the years. So I thought I would run you through an essential gear list. It's pretty much all behind me in this massive crate workbench that I got built. And it's a collection of gear that I've accumulated over the past 7 or 8 years. I also wanted to make sure that people watching this know that that's how it has happened. It's not happened overnight, and it's not happened within a year. Gear is something you accumulate, and it's something that takes ages, right? Because you're not going to be able to know what you need until you need it in certain circumstances. You need to buy the gear when you need it. I've spent thousands of rands on gear, and I've only used it once. This is going to be an essential gear guide as a videographer in South Africa, and also a guide on how to buy gear in this country. I have got a couple tips and tricks over the year, nothing too crazy, just something that I've learned. I'm going to take you through everything that's in here. It's not going to go too in depth in terms of settings and blah, 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 everything about the cameras. It's going to be an overview. So although the FX6 is technically in my gear list at the moment, it is not something that I'm going to consider an essential gear item. A, because of the price, and B, because I actually haven't used it too much. I've used it on 2 client shoots, and I'm still building out. I'm still getting comfortable with it. My main camera has been my main camera for the last 5 years. It is a A7S III, specifically, obviously, a video camera, because I mainly shoot video. This has been my main camera for 5 years, up until getting the FX6. This is everything I needed to do. When I initially bought this camera, I was shooting a lot at night when it came to festivals and live events. So I bought something that I can basically see in the dark. And on top of that is a small rig cage. For cameras like this, it's essential to have a cage because you can mount all the handles and everything to it. In terms of lenses, I have something what is called the golden triangle or the holy trio of lenses. There's a couple different names for it, but that is basically a wide angle lens, something from 16, 17 millimeters onwards, to something that is a bit more compact, but a bit more diverse, something like a 24 to 70. And then I have a telephoto lens, which is something 70 millimeters plus to 200 or 400 or whatever you want to have it. So this is my main wide angle baby. I managed to get this secondhand. It is Tamron Mark II. It's a 17 to 28, 2.8 full frame for Sony. Probably the best bang for buck wide angle lens you can get for Sony. It's super light. It weighs like half the weight of my next lens, which is my 24 to 70. This zoom lens was my first lens. For 3 years, I operated with this lens. I wasn't really shooting for clients, but I was shooting for myself, and I would bring this along on B cameras sometime. Then I have my newest addition in my lenses, which is my absolute favorite lens, which is a 70-200 Mark II G Master lens. This is the only original Sony lens I have. It is it's lighter than this lens, which is crazy because considering the size difference. It is absolutely incredible. It allows me to get some of the wildest shots when it comes to either bokeh or distance, and just the look out of this lens is incredible. It's internal zoom. It is very expensive, but I managed to get it on a good special for Black Friday. So yeah, I couldn't be happier. And also honorable mention is that this camera, my iPhone 16 Pro, is something that I use quite often. These things are really good nowadays, and I'd highly suggest you starting with the camera you've got. My next camera that I have, which considered a camera, even though it is a drone, is the Mavic Air 2S. I barely use this thing anymore. I bought it a couple of years ago. I barely use it on client shoots purely because of the legalities. If we're ever flying on private land and it's something I add in here and there and don't really charge for it, I will use this. But yeah, it's an older Air 2S. I'd say with any drone nowadays, they've gotten really good. The sensors have gotten really big. They're great at low light. And I'd suggest getting a mini if you can get a drone, because it's under 250 grams. It's easy to travel with. Most places allow drones that are way less than 250 grams, which the minis do. So this is a camera that I have in my personal capacity. It's my photo camera. It's a Fujifilm X100VI. I don't use it as much as I would hope, but I'm planning on just taking it out with me and having it with me permanently, and therefore using it. And speaking of a camera that is a kind of a personal thing, but it's something that I do use when it comes to client shoots. It is basically a 2012 Handycam. It gets a very, very vintage vibe and feel. And sometimes I can just add that extra little bit of vibe to shoots. Then when it comes to stabilization, this is what I use. This is a RS3 Pro. I use it to just get the classic gimbal shots, even though as I've gotten older, I much prefer the handheld look. In terms of getting a gimbal, I'd say get whatever you can really afford that works with your camera. But I think if it holds your camera and it does the job, I think it's fine. You don't need to upgrade these at all much. Then, in terms of what I put all of this in when I travel, well, not all of it, most of it, is my backpack. This is a Low Pro Flipside BP400 AW Mark III. And it is and has been my bag for the last 3 years. It's pretty big. It carries most of what I need. When I do travel, I put my lenses in here, put my camera in here, any batteries in here. Then in terms of audio, my main audio source when it comes to client shoots is what I'm using right now is my DJI mics Mark 1. It's the 2 dual transmitter kit. And I also have lapel mics, which I can clip into it. And in terms of lights, this is my main key light. I've got a secondary light, which I've just bought, which is the light that is lighting me here. This is a 70 watt nan light. This is the FS300B. And both of these purchases are purchases through the way that I'm going to show you at the end of this video. As I said, it's not a crazy hack, but it does save you some cash here and there. But these aren't anything silly. They are simple. They do the job. So when it comes to where I store all this gear, or most of it at least, it is in what is essentially a custom built workbench. But you can basically find these at most hardware stores. I just had a woodwork guy that I found on Facebook Marketplace that I found, and he could just build me one custom. It's a bit of a mess sometimes, and it's kind of getting a bit full. You can see by the clamps that are on the side here. Yeah, they kind of don't have anywhere to go. So these two trays are pull-outable trays. They have all my little bits and bobs. So those are honestly a bit of a mess, but they do the job, you know? And then in terms of my trays, there's a big tray which has my camera bag in, and then another big tray which got all the little things that come in bags, right? Then underneath, I've got other accessories in here. This is actually a bit of a camping setup. And then this has got a bunch of bags in it, which I do use for shoots. So this Godox bag. And then at the bottom here, at the back, what I have my light in, which I do actually need to get a proper bag for. Then at the back behind it, I've got my C-stand and my light stand. And yeah, I think overall, that's kind of it in terms of what I use on a daily basis when it comes to client shoots or when it comes to shooting YouTube videos. It is a basic overview, didn't go too into depth, but it does give you a good idea of what I use and what is necessarily needed for doing what I do. So I'm going to take you back to the computer now, where we talk about how to rent gear if you ever do need to use it, because a lot of people don't realize you can rent gear. Then number 2 is how to buy gear as a South African videographer or photographer or anyone in the tech world. As I mentioned, gear can be pretty expensive when it comes to this country. But I figured out a couple ways on how to get gear to be a little cheaper and to help with the overall cost, and sometimes to get things you can't get here. So there's 2 ways to buy it. You can buy it locally or you can buy it internationally. Locally would be on a site like Orms. They always have specials. As you can see here, there's a switch to Sony special, which I'd highly recommend you take if you're on something else, Canon. And always special. So if you're on the lookout for gear, there's always a special. For instance, if you want to buy this camcorder here, it's down $2,000. But mainly the top couple things, right? Which would be Sony Cine cameras that are easy to buy and easy to use, which would be something like the FX30. As you can see now, it is $4,000 off. So try not to buy it at a game or a store that is a bit more of a cliche store, but A would be to buy locally, and everyone kind of knows this. If you get to know the guys, sales guys at either ORMS, Cinephoto Tools, or anyone in your industry and anyone in your city that sells camera gear, you can often get good discounts. You can get access to gear just as it comes out, or you can pre-order it before anyone else. So I would chat to people there, make connections in store, but mainly if you're going to support locally, you buy it from one of these guys. For instance, if you're going to buy a light or a piece of gear, I'd highly suggest you check out Amazon in the US, because for instance, this light here, this is my FS300B on ORMS, currently sold out. It has been sold out for a while, but it's listed for 8,500 Rand. If you go to Amazon in America, right, and you have a look at the same item, sometimes it can be more expensive, sometimes it can be cheaper. For instance, I bought the same light for $239 in July of last year. Now, if we go USD to South African Rands and we put in $239, so you'll see that's $4,000. You do have to account for shipping. There was an extra $99 for shipping, but if we round that up to $350, including shipping and customs, you're looking at 6,000 Rand, which is way cheaper than this price. You just need to make sure that when you do buy items from America, you have to include the shipping and you have to include the customs. But I would also suggest do not buy it off a camera store from America or from another country, because that usually gets stuck at customs. Don't know how Amazon do it. Maybe it's a loophole. Probably not. It's probably something very simple. But when you buy from Amazon, they obviously have the right connections, and you pay the shipping and the customs ahead of time. So you can basically see the total amount when you order your items, what you're going to pay for the item, the shipping, and the customs. For instance, I had a piece of gear delivered to me that was coming from an individual company that I had to pay customs on, which can be upwards of 45% per item. So if you're spending 10,000 Rand, you're gonna have to pay potentially an extra 4,500 just to get it into the country. Also, in terms of gear rentals, when you start out and when you want to go on a shoot that maybe requires more than what you can offer when it comes to gear, do not be afraid to rent. Rental houses are a great way to be able to get access to gear that you've never had access to, even for me and for many people. If you do find a rental house in your area or in the greater area of your city where you live, you need to make sure that you build a relationship with them, because they're not going to rent it out to you immediately. So I managed to build a relationship from Zootee Studios in Cape Town. They are a great local brand. They are a great local company. They basically offer almost anything I can need. You can see they've just added a bunch of new gear. When you do go to these places, you need to go in person just to chat to them and say, hey, can I rent something for you? Maybe they'll let you rent something that's relatively cheap for the start, and they'll see how you handle it. And then you can kind of build up your reputation going forward. So I think don't be shy to rent gear. You will quickly get accustomed to how the rentals work, and you can build a relationship. And as I've said, this industry is built off relationships. You need to make sure you forge them, and you forge them early, and you will save yourself plenty of cash and plenty of time. Because who knows, maybe if you wanted to do a spec ad one day, these companies might be willing to lend you the gear. There is another platform that allows you to rent gear. It's in the initial stages. It's being built by a friend and a colleague, Marcus. It is called Creator Clubhouse, and it has just launched. As you can see, we're not even on version 1. It's currently on version 0.91. I'm currently a member of it, but in the future, you'll be able to buy and rent gear. So you'll be able to rent gear such as a Lauer 10mm, for instance, a H6 recorder, at way more of a competitive price than what you would get at a normal gear house. Because this is built for creators, by creators, to support people like us, and that would not have access to this kind of stuff going forward. So as I mentioned, it is in the initial stages, but it is also something where we can get partner discounts on gear. We can also build a portfolio out. We can rent gear, and we can also have resources when it comes to maybe contracts. I think there's an NDA available right now. So the link will be in the description for this. It is a partner to me and to the channel, and it's something that is being built and something that I think is so needed in this country. And it is also a way to get jobs. However, I will go into this in further detail in another video when it is properly built out. So I think if you do have the chance, please sign up. I'll put the link in the description. Have a look at it. As a South African creator, I think this is going to change the game. And yeah, I just can't wait to really kind of see where it goes. And then last but not least is what I use to edit, and also what I use to edit on when it comes to laptops and storage. So I currently have 2 SSDs only, which might shock a lot of people, but I have a 2 terabyte SSD and then another 2 terabyte SSD, which goes out for client shoots, which is currently out at the moment with the editor. And this is basically what I edit off. I will have usually 1 or 2 projects going at a time. Sometimes it's more, and I'll edit off these. And what I will edit on is MacBook Pro M2, 36 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte storage. Pretty sure that's it. This basically does everything I needed to do. It is an older laptop. It's not something that's just come out. I think it came out in 2022, but the M Max chips just are absolutely incredible. You can get an M1, M2, M3, M4. If just long as you get the Max chip, you kind of sorted, especially when it comes to processing power, memory bandwidth. So that's what I edit on. I didn't start on that. I started on a MacBook Air, which upgraded to a MacBook Pro, which is like a 13-inch Intel Core. Then I got this. So this is my 3rd laptop in 7 years. And I had plenty of ones before that. Use Windows laptops, but I'm in the Apple ecosystem. My phone is Apple. My life is Apple. So it works for me. And yeah, I think that is basically everything. As I've said before, I'm trying to reiterate this again, you do not need all of this gear. This is stuff I've accumulated over 7 years. You just need a camera and you need a lens, maybe a light, and you're good to go. That is it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I've got plenty more coming, and I'll see you in the next one.